First question, is the reporting period 90 days for all EPs or just EPs reporting for the first time? Second part, should they use the stage 2 modified criteria?
Okay, everybody, hospitals, physicians, new providers, those who have returned for the 6th time, everybody is eligible to report for 90 days and meet all the requirements. As I said, with the MIPS reporting, if you report for a full year, you may be eligible for increased incentives, but the minimum reporting that will get you incentive dollars is 90 days, and this is included too for the Medicaid MPIP EHR incentive program is also 90 days.
Medicaid EPs will still be called EPs, correct? Only the Medicare EPs will be called ECs. That is correct.
That is correct. And you back to your other question about what the measures are. They're very similar to stage 2 in MIPS reporting, but come back for that deep dive next week where we explain how that's done differently, because there are not thresholds attached to it. There will continue to be thresholds for Medicaid, so Medicaid looks exactly as it did this year and last year and the year before as far as how you report.
Okay, the next question is on Medicaid EP eligibility. Does AIU participation count towards the Medicaid providers having to already participated, or did an EP have to attest to stage 1 or above?
Medicaid eligibility, does AIU, 2016 is the last year that you can be eligible for Medicaid, and it can be AIU that establishes the eligibility. I know Emma is on. I don't know if she wants to comment on this at all, but basically, as long as you are in 2016, whether it's at AIU or meaningful use, you are eligible to continue until all your incentives are paid or until the end of the 2021 program year.
This program seems to be really confusing. Does CliniSync offer any kind of assistance, and if so, how does that work? Yes, we do offer some assistance. We have what we call our CliniSync Plus program. If your organization needs clarification, they need some additional assistance with understanding MACRA and preparing, please contact Kathy or myself and we'll help you out.
Okay.
What should a practice be doing now to be prepared for 2017?
We'll look at that in the deep dive next week, but I would say your biggest areas are determine the groups that you're reporting for. You know, are you going to be considered advanced APMs? So you and that should be published by CMS. Determine what categories, if you're not an advanced APM, who the physicians or practitioners are that you're providing or reporting for, and if there are any special exceptions, and then the mechanism for reporting. How are you going to report? Because if you report as a group, you have to stay as a group across all the reporting requirements. So your ACI, or your advancing care information, your quality reporting, and your clinical practice improvement will all need to be reported as a group. But how you do that is, since it's a new area of reporting, we'll talk about that in the deeper dive.
May we share your acronyms used handout with our staff?
Absolutely.
Share it with everybody. Share the slide deck. Share the links to the recordings and to the upcoming webinars. You know, we don't really try to protect our information. We put it out there so it can be shared. To clarify on, oh, sorry, I missed one. MIPS exclusion, new provider. Is it an exclusion if you're new for that 10, or how does the exclusion work?
No, new provider, when CMS talks about new provider, they are talking about new to the Medicare Part B billing program. And if you have a new provider within your own system, say someone's moved in from another place, but they've been part of Medicare in the past, you will be required to report for them. However, the nice thing about this is that the problem we've had in the past where you had to aggregate meaningful use measures from, you know, previous employers, or if they're working more than one place, where they're working, everywhere where they're working, you no longer will need to do that. You will be reporting on what's available to you.
To clarify on the low volume determination, if MPI is under minimums for 9/1 of 2015 through 8/31 of 2016, but then exceeds both minimums for 9/1/16 to 8/31/17, they are not eligible for MIPS in the 2017 performance year, but may be eligible in 2018.
That is correct. When you're looking at the two buckets, if they meet in one period and not the other, they still will be excluded, but that exclusion only runs for a year because exclusions are determined again for every single year separately.
And the exclusion criteria could in fact change, especially with respect to the patient phasing
and APM and stuff where you're looking at a certain percentage. So there's a lot of things that change every year, and I'd say again that's something that you need to kind of build into your thinking as you sit down in January of every year is how have exclusions changed, how have participation guidelines changed.
And that those participation guidelines could include new types of providers.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
How can we audit CMS on how they are weighting us correctly? Now, I'm going to say the first thing I would do this year to prepare for next year is download that QRUR report, download all of those little files that are there available as well, all the different tables and your PQRS information, and go over that information with a fine-tooth comb. That's where I personally would start.
But I'll tell you something, and this is something we'll talk about next week. The group reporting covers a multitude of sins. Do not think you're going to have to pull all this information out provider by provider if you decide to report as a group. Say you have 40 providers and you've got 3 of them who might be non-patient facing or might be hospital providers. You can still throw them in and report for them, and it's just that it changes how your calculation is done, how many numerator, because it's all aggregated together. And whether or not CMS counts, as we said, them eligible for an incentive is really what the issue is, and not whether you have to handle them separately as far as how you report for them. And as far as an audit, what I do is just look at those lists when CMS publishes them at the beginning of each period and determine, see if any of your providers are on it and how they're being cataloged.
Will the slides be emailed to us, or where do we find this? We will email the slides to everyone, but while we have this webinar open, you can quickly download those from the handouts feature, but we'll send the copy to everybody as well. And Kathy, that is our last question.
Thanks all so much. We really appreciate talking to you, and hope that you can make it for some of the more specific webinars in the next 2 weeks. And have a great weekend.
And if you guys would like a more specific webinar, you've got additional questions, if you would like to suggest another webinar, send us an email by all means. We're here to help you guys. And thanks again.